So this is a very vulnerable video for me because I am sitting in my car. It's about 10:43 at night, and I just got back from a gathering with Gail, who's like my aunt. And I was hosting these social justice connects at my house. Which by the way, I don't know why I'm not explaining to y'all what Connect is. Connect is like, I'm sorry about this light back here. Connect is this time where my young adult group from church would come together and talk about topics. And I was very frustrated by a lot of the topics because I felt like they revolved, is that better to do this? Yeah, I felt like they revolved around guilt and shame and inadequacy. And I've been really, really trying to stick with Adventism, with Seventh-day Adventism, because I think the Bible, it's the most accurate, I think, denomination that's related to the Bible in terms of the Sabbath and like the second coming of Jesus and all that stuff. But I find myself just so frustrated. This is too bright, I'm sorry. Just very frustrated by Adventism because I just feel that the group as a whole is not doing what could be done. And I have been having so many dreams and, almost nightmares about Adventism. And not just Adventism, but the silence of churches. It hurts me so deeply to see churches silent. And I'm sorry that I'm crying and I'm emotional because I think about the state of our country. And the state of the world, not just our country, but the state of our world. And with this recent crisis of these kids in cages, I can't even, see, that's the thing. The silence of churches is what makes me mad. It makes me the most upset when I hear that churches are silent and not doing what they should be doing to help people. Sorry. I've been sitting in my car. I've been parked. It's 10:45 now. I've been parked here since 9:30 because I've been sitting in my car. Well, maybe not 9:40. Parked by my car in this parking spot by my house because I decided today that I have to leave Adventism for a while to find my place in what's happening in the world. The majority of Seventh-day Adventism is not doing the work to help the LGBTQ population. A lot of people still think of gay people as being lost, as trans people as being lost, and they're not. A lot of people in the communities of Adventism, and I'm talking about Adventism because that's the faith that I know the best. I know this is the same in many different conservative, evangelical, or not just evangelical, but just denominations and faiths, where they don't do the work. But I want to talk about Adventism, about the Sabbath, and people just sit in pews all day. I have a notification here. They sit in pews all day, and then they're in church all day, and then they talk about numbers and getting people to come to church and being a part of the church and getting members. But it's why is that stuff even important if we're not going out there being there for people? And I remember, when I was younger, and I probably have talked about this before, I was so interested in the needs of other people. I still am. Now I'm getting back to it. But I was so interested in the needs of other people. Maybe you can see me a little bit better now. I was so interested in the needs of other people that I would literally go home and think about, what can I do for these people? What? And it was so natural. It just went like that. It just came like that. But then I started getting involved in more programs and more meetings and doing all these things with people and church leaders and being on constituency meetings and nominating committees, blah, 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 blah. And I'm why am I doing all this stuff? Is that actually important in the grand scheme of life? I don't feel that they are. So I just texted some people telling them that I was going to cancel these Connect sessions because they're not making a difference. Every time I go to Adventist churches or I'm around people that are Adventist, I feel, not all Adventist people, but so many, I feel trauma. I feel trauma because I know the work that should be done, and it's not being done. And then I think, but there are churches that are doing the work that are not Adventist, and I should go and join them. And then I feel guilty about that because the Bible says a certain thing about the Sabbath and all these different things. And I'm like, but even in the Bible, God would send the Spirit to places that were doing the work of God. And I believe, like in terms of like prophets going to different places to basically liberate people and to spread the message of liberation, being there for people. And that's what Christianity should be doing. That's what any faith background should be doing, liberating people, bringing them closer to being rehumanized and like remembering who they are as a child of God, as somebody that deserves to be on this planet, to be given these God-given rights of love, liberty, happiness, all these different things. And where's the Sabbath? I have a home church here in Chicago that I'm so frustrated about. And I feel I was back and forth about these connects and helping out for so long. And I would feel so guilty because I've been taught to serve. I've been taught to serve and sacrifice self over and over and over again and remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And not to remember the foreigner that resides in my gates, and not to remember the people that are homeless. But all these sermons of like, this is who you are, a child of God. Yay, the Sabbath. Oh my gosh. But look at the world outside of the church. Look at the world outside the church. Not just Adventist churches, but the church, institutionalized church, because the church really is everybody. Our world is so messed up right now. It's so messed up. Despite, and there's a debate that maybe the world was more messed up back then, but it's still messed up now. What's happening in our administration, in our government is it's horrific to me. And why the immigration crisis bothers me the most, I think, now is because when you mess with children who have even if they're illegal or they came to this country in the ways that they shouldn't have, children should be treated well. They didn't come here, and the fact that they didn't choose to come here, and the fact that we have an administration in place that is not making it easy for immigrants and for children. And I talk about this because children experience, it takes a child so long to get rid of that trauma. I've talked about this before in a video. But the fact, and I was at the march yesterday, and they were talking about, one of the Jewish leaders was saying, no, it wasn't a Jewish leader, it was a non-religious, well, I don't know if the person was religious or not, but he was talking about the silence of churches, the silence of religious leaders it's horrible. The silence I hear of religious leaders in my home church, going back to that, is silent. It is silent, and a lot of the people in charge are afraid. They're like, well, how do I find this balance? You just talk about things objectively. There's no balance. You talk about the facts and what you know and how people are being affected and what's happening in the country. And if you're going to stay silent and you're just going to sit in your pews and get people used to sitting in pews and being in programs, all that stuff like I was, you are doing a disservice to the country, and you should not be in ministry, because the fact that ministry is uncomfortable. Ministry is reaching out to those who need ministry. And when you really think about the Sabbath, I laugh because I laugh when at a lot of things, but I'm really laughing about this specifically because I'm so frustrated, but also it's funny to me to see the problems and to know the answer, but to not see it being done anyways. But I don't want to bash my church, but I also feel that maybe if I put my hand here, I feel that if I don't speak up and tell myself, one, that what's happening with churches is not normal. And that's why for a long time I felt so called to being a pastor, so called to ministry. But I don't think it can be an Adventism, because a lot of Adventist churches and people that I know just want to rest on Friday night to Saturday, and they don't want to do anything. They want to have people in church all day. Oh, and this is what I was going to say. The interesting part about Adventism and rest is that So many people say that they need rest. Like, I'm so tired and I'm going through all this stuff. But then they're putting all this pressure on one day and one time period to give them that rest. When there are people around this country, and this is the part that I feel terrible about when I think about my involvement in Adventism, the things that I haven't done, and I have to really find forgiveness and peace about the things that I have not done. Looking at this man outside, he's literally just walking outside here and he looks like he's going through a hard time. But the part of Adventism that I have to really find peace about is the fact that, like, yes, the Sabbath day was created as rest for people. But I know a lot of people in my church specifically that don't really, well, they need rest, yes, from work and stuff like that. But then do they need that, like, do they need rest as much as people that are being raped or that are slaves in this country or that are immigrants and weary? I mean, can't we give up a time to bring those people into rest? I understand that there has to be a balance between self-care and service. But self-care should not be restricted to one day. Also, the concept of God is love. Love is not selfish. It's not about, oh, me. Like, it's only for me. That's why the Sabbath is a beautiful day of love. And this love that's not selfish should be spread and given to everybody. And that is why I believe that if the Sabbath was truly utilized in the ways that it should be, that this day of love would be a day and a time frame for us, yes, as people who need rest to rest, but also to bring rest to those who don't have this love. But I think that the Adventist people are so used to thinking about themselves in terms of the rest that they need, that only they need. And not just that, but putting all of their rest, waiting for... That makes me laugh. Saving all of their rests for one time period and one time. I understand that a lot of people in this country work a Monday through Friday schedule. Get it, totally. But I find it funny that's like, I'm going to keep working until this day and I'm going to make myself tired. I'm only going to rest on Sabbath, like on Friday to Saturday. But you know what? If you had an illness that your body needed rest, you wouldn't wait until, like, if it's a Monday, you wouldn't wait and then you have to wait, like, oh my gosh, I'm only going to rest. I'm going to rest in like 4 or 5 days. If you have a serious illness and you have to go to the hospital or something, this might be a bad comparison. But you wouldn't wait all these days to take care of your illness, to rest your body. You wouldn't do that. You would do it immediately. And so many Adventist people and Sabbath keepers wait until the Sabbath to get their rest. And that's not right. Like, because you can't do that to your body. You can't do it to your mind. So that is why I'm pleading for people to start thinking about the fact that the Sabbath was not created just as a day for us to rest and for us to take time just to be with ourselves. Because also we're very communal beings. So we need to be around other people on Sabbath. And the best way, and service is the way to really be around people, to give back to those that don't have. But I'm so weary of this mindset. But my thing is the metaphor and the concept of Sabbath and bringing rest is what's more important to me than necessarily the Sabbath. And that's why I feel that it's time for me to go to places and to churches and with people that want to bring Sabbath rest to people, and they aren't necessarily doing the whole Friday to Saturday thing, because I keep fighting with church people and like having arguments and discussions that go nowhere. And the people that are in charge on the top are not understanding this. And a lot of the church services that we have, that I've been to that are Adventist, are around guilt and like, don't have sex, don't do this, only man and woman like should get married, all those different things. And then women can't be ordained. And I'm just thinking to myself, the thought that I had while I was sitting in the car here, I was like, because this is traumatizing for me. It's traumatizing because I worked for the Center for Youth Evangelism, And I saw, so when you work for Oshkosh, on the Oshkosh International Camporee, which is this big event that happens every 5 years in the Adventist churches for youth who are mostly Pathfinders. People from all around the world come to this, and there are like different vendors, and it's a really great event. But I saw so many leaders when working for that were just stagnant and didn't do anything, and I was traumatized. I was almost brought to atheism because of that, because of my reaction to that. But from that experience, I've learned that the work of the Sabbath has to be done some way. And I would love for there to be this movement that all Adventist churches are coming together and having shorter services and then going out to do the message of the Sabbath every single Sabbath, so that people know that like these Adventist people are not just like in a church, like keeping themselves away from society, but they're actually out there doing the message. But I just don't want to fight against these leaders anymore. I don't have it in me, like right now, to keep doing it, because it's just so tiring and exhausting. And oh yes, and going back to the trauma, that's what I was talking about. When you're traumatized, do you keep going back to the person that's traumatized you? Or do you try to find people that are like healthy and that are good? And I'm in Chicago right now and I'm not moving. There are only like 5 or 6 churches and none of them are doing this work. But I see other churches that are not Adventist that are doing the work, and I'm like, I like that what they're doing, but they just don't go to church on Saturdays. And that's when it goes back to like my feeling of like, well, the divine movement has to be done somewhere. So if it's okay if it's not being done on a Saturday, on a Sabbath. So I'm slowly moving away from Seventh-day Adventism because, and maybe I'll come back, I don't know. But right now, the amount of people that are dying because Adventist people think that the Sabbath is because realistically, a lot of people that I see work a job Monday through Friday, right? A lot of these people that I've met, at least in my home church, don't volunteer at different places because they're like, I'm going to work and then I'm going to go home. Then Sabbath comes along and and they rest again. And then Sunday comes and they're trying to get ready for the week. And then I think to myself, which actually I want to put a point here because I don't want to go against anybody, because some people might be doing things on the side and little things, but the movement, like, you know, taking care of your neighbor and being part of different organizations that maybe I don't know of. But the churches as a whole are not taking this movement to the next level where it should be. Where it's like, okay, the Sabbath movement is we as a church are going to meet those that are in need that need rest. And we are not going to sit here and have all these programs that are about prayer and all these different things, because churches are sanctuaries for people that are in need. They have always been, and they're supposed to be places where people who are in need can come. And then if we keep praying, I mean, yes, I do understand prayers of healing and all these different things, but all the prayers that I feel that are happening in churches for fasting are for personal breakthrough. A lot of the time, and that's the human tendency, though, to think about self. But we have to, in terms of the Sabbath movement and in terms of the Christian movement in general, it's about the message of Christ and love and being out there with people and giving back. And if you can't do that in the denomination that you're in, maybe you got to join another one. And that's the conundrum that I'm in right now, that I think I've made that decision because I'm just so dissatisfied and I'm so tired of seeing people dying. Like, and the Seventh-day Adventist Church is like, well, we rest on the Sabbath. We don't do any of that work. It's not good to go to marches. This is not every Seventh-day Adventist church. It's just many churches that I've gone to. But then I see churches like the UCC and different denominations that are doing the work, and I don't have to fight them. I don't have to keep going through that trauma of like, please, let's do this. So that's my little vlog for today, and it's 11:02 and I really was supposed to be in bed by now, but I had to put this video. I didn't have to put this video up because I wasn't really thinking about this, but I was like, let me take out the camera and talk about this. So I don't know. If any Adventist people are listening to this, my appeal is this. If you're going to stay in Adventism, make a difference in Adventism. It's not just about you. And I struggle with this because I still am very selfish. I'm a human being that wants to think about myself. But I reflect on this and I look at the world and I look at people, and not just like from a high political, Democratic, Republican thing, but I look at the people that are homeless here in Chicago. Look at the people that are immigrants here in Chicago. Look at the women that are being, taught this message of submission to the point of like staying in domestic violence relationships because they've been taught to submit themselves, and that women are inferior to men, because they're not able to be ordained because they're women. It's saddening to me, and and also a lot of people that I know are still in this cycle of like the Sabbath is for self, and then a lot of the young adults around me feel that way, and a lot of them are supporters of the person in office now, and this is one of those situations where my calling in life trumps, overpowers my current state. And my calling is this, that I've been sure of this since I was young. It is to bring rest to people that are in need, which is why I would love this app, but bringing rest anywhere and helping people that are traumatized, and maybe singing, songs of empowerment and love to those people. But bringing rest to people that are in need is what I need to do. And I've been doing this with my friends and talking to people, and I'm like the therapist of a lot of groups that I'm in. But this is the work that I need to do, and I don't want to have to fight people on this work. Now, a lot of people are going to say, if you want to do it, you have to stick it out. And I'm like, that is true. That is very true. I could stick it out. But I can stick it out in places that I know are going to be out there, protesting and doing and fighting and advocating for people and doing the work and not telling me that because I'm a woman, I'm inferior, So, but I'm still conflicted because I still love Adventism. I still feel that it is the message that I have been given to. But I could practice Adventism and not be a Seventh-day Adventist in a church. So, but that's it. I hope that you all have a good day. And I hope that anyone who's listening to this, who is going to continue in Adventism, thinks about this. And my prayer for myself is that I find what's right. But also that I'm there for the foreigner and for the widow and for the orphan, those in need, wherever that is, wherever that leads me. Because that is really what we're here to do, to be there for those in need. Any sort of money and income that you have, to help your family, to pay your bills, to help yourself, and then to help the other people that need it. Because we shouldn't be hoarding any resources. And I don't mean just financial. Any emotional things that we have gone through, we should be sharing, and that we've overcome, we should share with other people. Because we have to help each other grow. And we have to bring rest to people's problems, and rest to the problems that we see in the world that are just not right. And you shouldn't have to be debating. You shouldn't have to debate with people about these things over and over again. And that's why I feel a lot of peace right now, because I'm like, it's okay if you need to leave Adventism, but you have to go somewhere where the work that you are supposed to be doing is being done, and that you don't have to keep. Yeah, but I don't want to say that like other denominations are not fighting with each other about these different things. No, I don't think that they feel it any less than Adventism does. I think it's just different. And I've already found a few churches that I appreciate their work, and they're not Seventh-day Adventist churches. So I think I'm going to start going to them and not feel guilty. So anyways, I'm going to cut this off here because it's 23, almost 24 minutes, and I need to go inside to go to sleep by 11:30. So have a good night. Bye-bye.